Modern selling. Or as you know, it's selling on Zoom, virtual selling your offer, selling your product. You're an online coach, whatever the case is, you're selling virtually. Have you ever stopped for a second and just asked yourself, how did we get here? How did this virtual sales industry catapult to where it is right now? Well, let's take it back. Let's look at all sales platforms, all communication platforms, really. So what do we have? We have traditional face-to-face selling, being in front of a human being. We've got computer mediated communication, aka Zoom, virtual sales, and we got broadcast, right? Social media, major platforms. So let's focus on the two. Let's focus on face-to-face, right? Traditional sales, and let's focus on CMC, computer mediated communication. All right, so face-to-face, you're in front of someone, you're physically in front of someone. If I'm on this side of the desk, you're on that side of the desk, and we're there communicating. It's real. Hypothetically, if something was bothering you, you could turn around and hit that person. And now we have computer mediated communication, right? So that's usually like a virtual setting. Typically it's one-on-one, could be group coaching, could be that type of avenue. It's really important to understand the platform of communication you are in front of your prospect, whether that be face-to-face or, through a Zoom call. All right, so this is a setting that maybe you're B2B, right? You're going into businesses, maybe you're door-to-door, maybe you're selling memberships in a gym, brick and mortar. People come in, you're there communicating. You're in front of another human physically. You see and you feel the nuances. In person, face-to-face is really heavy in these areas, in these nuances, the etiquette, the mannerism of people, certain things do and we're known to do as human beings. But as human beings, we get the most fulfillment from face-to-face being in front of someone. If that's a sales process scenario or conversation, or if that is a group conversation. In fact, it's funny because we tend to be less stressed when we're in a face-to-face setting to that versus computer mediated communication, aka Zoom. We're just more natural and we feel more at ease in a face-to-face scenario. Now, I want you to think about that for a second. Based on what you do, right? You sell virtually, you're an online coach, business owner, virtual. That's your world. Think about what I just said there, that we tend to feel more at ease and relaxed in a face-to-face in-person setting versus jumping on a Zoom call. And you have to look at that. People tend to think that, okay, I can just jump on a Zoom call. I don't have to leave my house. I can travel the world and do sales virtually and travel wherever I want. But for people, studies have shown that we're more tired and drained from activity through CMC versus in person. So in other words, you're in a sales scenario in person is less stressful than actually jumping on a Zoom call and, going through that process for you and your prospect. Interesting. So let's look at that. Why is it more impactful in a stressful way jumping on Zoom? I think a lot of it is human instincts. On Zoom, we can't pick up on someone's verbal or nonverbal cues as much as we could when they're right in front of us. Well, as a salesperson on a Zoom call, I don't pick up on nonverbal cues as much as I would if I was physically in front of someone. Yes, CMC, Zoom is more convenient, hence online sales, online coaching, high ticket sales, the online business world in general. But did you know there's major disadvantages you have in a virtual setting versus actually being in front of a human being face to face? And so why is this important to you? Well, because people have more instinct, less stress, less noise when we're in front of a face-to-face setting in terms of being physically there with someone. In fact, today, face-to-face is coming back. It's not a dinosaur. I mean, traditional face-to-face sales has been through our entire existence. Goes back to our ancestors, bartering for, the family cow for 3 chickens, thinner DNA. But the fact is, virtual selling is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. Look at COVID 4 years ago. But what COVID really did was really just accelerate something that was already happening. It was already in motion. CMC, Zoom, virtual selling, online coaches, online businesses, virtual solar, online real estate, online fitness. It's not going anywhere. But what COVID really enhanced, it was an entire shift fast. Virtual sales happen so fast. I mean, I wish I had some stock in Zoom back in 2019 before this happened. What was it? Something like a 400% increase in Zoom stock in 1 year. Virtual sales, online coaching, online businesses accelerated so much that we weren't able to adapt, to evolve so quickly to this level, this type of communication. Some things just went over our head. We're unable to digest. You compare that to traditional sales, face to face, something that we've evolved with the dawn of time. We've had time. Newsflash, we don't get social fulfillment from Zoom interactions. We just don't. It's not the same in comparing it to face-to-face interactions. So understanding your arena, online sales, online businesses, online coaches, virtual selling, you understand that the medium matters. Something like CMC, which is my world and yours, practices, and being conscious of that, being conscious of the disadvantage from CMC versus face-to-face, that matters. So we sell in a CMC industry. Zoom, FaceTime, Google Meet is your world. It's different than being in person with someone. Look, even the phone is a level of CMC. And you know this, the disadvantages of a sales, scenario over the phone versus in person, or being able to see someone, having only audio, nothing else. So in that setting, what are you going to leverage on? What are you going to try to leverage on in that setting? Well, as salespeople, guess what? When we look at the phone process, we've had time to evolve over years and years and years when we're communicating via phone. We know your energy matters on a phone conversation, your voice tone, your attentiveness, obviously a sales process, but outside of that, on a phone, you have more noise between the sender and the receiver. You could be having a conversation with someone on the phone, are there, but they're scrolling TikTok, they're scrolling IG. Maybe they've got you on speaker, they plunk you down on the desk and they're scrolling away. You can't see them, but as they're talking to you, they're focused on something else. But thanks to our adapted social brain, we can actually tell after a bit, like, hey, this person's not listening to me. They're not paying attention, because that person on the other side of the phone, that prospect has zero attentiveness. They're scrolling and doing other things. They're not there, and you pick up on that. It's like a salesperson trying to focus so much on an actual script when they're in a sales conversation with a prospect. There will be zero attentiveness because that poor bastard's trying to remember the next thing he has to say. So when we communicate sales conversation on a phone, good salespeople can highlight and be aware of these disadvantages, right? And how do they do that? Well, we can manipulate our tone, our pitch. We can communicate through pacing. We can bring in more energy, not too much energy. Not going to sound like a game show host, right? That's going to create like, oh, this person's trying to sell me in your prospect's mind. Don't want to over exaggerate your energy is what I'm saying. If we want to promote any thought, you'll kind of slow down your pace. But if you want to present logical reasoning, like something with a comma versus a period, then you're going to speed up a little, right? So they know the benefit of your offer or your product. You may do a very intentional pause. It's going to have more impact. It's like more silence. You've developed these skills, but basically what you're doing is you're doing basic communication, but you're only working harder to do it because of the noise, because you're not in front of someone, which is clearly more harder. It's more work rather than if you're in front of someone face to face, right? You see my point. And so sales professionals that excel, what really separates them from most is not a script. Great salespeople that are excellent at what they do really just comes down to their ability of having that awareness in whatever scenario they're in. If it's CMC, if it's in person, whatever it is, they really can tune into their boundaries and their disadvantages, things that are going to highlight them and make them better and help your prospect and help them deliver their communication. Really, at the same time, mimicking the entire face-to-face experience. It's what good salespeople do. They highlight and they enhance certain skills. One word, write this down: paravocalics. How you articulate your communication, how you are saying it. The actual message is the content. How you're talking how you're listening. It's the flow. I always talk about flow. It's the attentiveness. It's being able to listen and respond. It's not being distracted by the noise and not being distracted by anything. It's the distraction, the noise, CMC, a Zoom call, doing sales over the phone, the noise, and not having the advantages of the in-person like nuances. That's the value we take granted for when we're not in person. It's all the nuance. Things that are blurred way more in a Zoom. And look, let me tell you something. Your brain is not as good as multitasking as you would like to think, because the reality is communication is delivered in different platforms. There's certain platforms. It's your job as a sales professional to understand that platform, understand your arena, understand and develop that way of communication for your prospect. A Zoom setting matters. Jumping on a Zoom call with your prospect, a professional setup matters. It's visual. It's what you have to anchor down on. Jumping on a call with a blurred background, someone maybe an offer that's $10,000, $15,000, and been on with a blurred background, you on the moon or on a beach background, like the scope of someone seeing you physically, right, in a Zoom parameter matters. Oh yes, the camera you use matters. Oh, as a sales professional, yes, setting your communication delivery, verbal and non-verbal, absolutely matters. And when you understand your platform of communication, the arena that you're in, you're mimicking more of what's normal to us as human beings. We evolved so quickly in this area, in this space, digested really the basic fundamental things of communication. And so understanding that and being very aware in these areas and knowing your parameters and knowing the leverages and disadvantages, the disadvantages so you can improve on, is everything. This is advanced communication, and that's what we're focusing on here. If you're a coach, if you're an online business, it's very, very important where we evolve to now and where we are. Woo! This was a long one today. Come on, man. Like, subscribe, even share. Show me some love. I'm going to keep coming back, and I'll see you on the next one.